who would take the role of gatekeeper. And really, this role, at least as far as I'm mostly concerned about it, is to make sure that anybody who wants to say something can be put on the queue so that we don't forget that they would like to say something. Anybody interested in doing that?
I'll do it.
Thank you. And then notes. So I'm probably not going to be able to type while I'm talking. And so if somebody could help me out by taking some notes, that would be great. Anybody? Amir? Great. Maybe one other person, so if Amir wants to say something, somebody else is taking notes. Awesome, thank you. Okay, well, welcome. So my name is Aaron Halfaker, and I suppose I should introduce Amir Sarabadani too. We're the primary developers who are maintaining this ORES system that you might have heard a little bit about. So my main goal for this session is to help get ORES set up and working in places where it's not already working. And of course, in order to do that, I'm gonna give the room an introduction to what ORES is, talk about where we have this machine learning prediction service available, and then talk about how we build up support for new wikis and new languages and that sort of stuff. Okay. So the first thing that I want to do is get into an introduction to ORES and what you can use its predictions to do. Does anybody have any questions before I get moving on that? All right, great. So now I'm going to hide the notes from you and pull up Wikipedia. So one of the big problems for an open knowledge space like Wikipedia is that open is great because it lets a lot of people contribute, but it also opens us up to vandalism. And English Wikipedia, one of our most active wikis, although Wikidata is getting pretty close to rivaling it, it gets 160,000 edits per day. And so if you go to the recent changes page, you will see that there's hundreds of edits that happen on the scale of a minute, and it's just way too much for an individual to review. There's just edits that are piling in and piling in. One of the really cool things that a machine learning tool can do is it can help us prioritize the edits that we review, so that we don't have to review all 160,000 edits for vandalism or spam or other problematic things. We can have a machine that can narrow down that large set of edits to just the edits that look like they might be problematic, and we can just spend our time reviewing those. My best estimate, and this is pretty conservative, is that reviewing 160,000 edits should take you about 280 hours to do, and that's so we would have to spend 280 hours a day reviewing the edits on Wikipedia in order to make sure that they were all reviewed. With the machine learning model, we can cut that down by about 90%, which means that just a few people can be responsible for patrolling even our most active wiki. So what I'm going to do right now is actually show you how to enable a beta feature that the collaboration team has been working on, that we've been working on them with. Who here has a Wikipedia account? All right, so most everybody. So just so long as you're logged into your account, and I'd ask that you go on English Wikipedia right now, if that's okay, and we'll take a look in a little bit on maybe the wiki that you prefer to edit to, and see if we have ORES support there, and talk about how we can get it if we don't. But so on English Wikipedia, this beta feature that I want you to give a try is called New Filters for Edit Review, and it shows up at the top of the list if you click on beta on the top of the page. And so once this is enabled, when you go to the recent changes page, which you can get by clicking on this link that's on the left-hand side over here, I can't make this much bigger and actually allow you to still see the link. I hope everybody can get that. Okay. And so once this is enabled, you'll see that the top of recent changes has this new dialog setup that is titled Active Filters here. And so what I'm going to do is first I'm going to remove log actions because we don't score log actions like page moves and deletions and that sort of stuff yet. And if you click into this gray space, it will open up this drop down. So the first set of options that appear here, they say contribution quality predictions. And this is coming from this machine learning system that I called ORES. So just to demonstrate what somebody who's doing counter vandalism work and is supported by ORES might do, I'm going to check the box next to may have problems, likely to have problems, and very likely to have problems. And I want, so that what this is going to do is it's going to make it so that the only edits that show up in the list now are those edits that the prediction model thinks are at least possibly would have problems, are worth your time spent reviewing them. I'm going to do one more thing though before we're done in this dialogue, and I'm going to click on this highlight results menu so that we get these drop downs that are on the right hand side of these filter things. And I'm going to click the one next to likely to have problems, which is sort of like moderate probability of bad. And I'm going to make that so that it's yellow. And then I'll click on this very likely to have problems one, and we'll make that a more obvious color. Okay, so now that I have my filter set up, I'll just click behind this so that the dialog goes away, and we can see already that there's an edit that happened recently that's highlighted in a pretty dark color here that suggests that this edit is probably problematic. That's coming from the prediction model as, hey, if you're going to review edits, you really want to review this one. So if I click on the diff there, we might find, yep, this looks like some vandalism. Somebody was adding some nonsense to an article. And so let's see if I'm quick enough. No, somebody already beat me to it. Somebody already reverted it. In fact, it might have been somebody using ORES. Possibly anyway. But anyway, you can see how this helps you find vandalism by calling your attention to the small set of edits in the recent changes feed that are actually likely at all to be vandalism in the first place. And so this reduces the amount of effort that we have to spend reviewing edits to make sure that we catch all of the damaging edits. So this is just one of the predictions that ORES makes, but it's the one that you can take advantage of most easily right now. We have, I believe it's 12 wikis that have this interface with ORES predictions enabled in them. I'm actually, I can't rattle them off the top of my head, so I'm going to go to the actual ORES API system and read through this real quick. Actually, I'm just going to go to the V1 version of this. Oh, darn it, that doesn't list out the models. Yeah, I guess this is the best way. Oops. Do control for damaging. Okay, so we have this system set up and ready to go for Czech Wikipedia, English Wikipedia as you just saw, Estonian Wikipedia, Persian Wikipedia, Finnish Wikipedia. Oh, I didn't even know we have Finnish. Oh, they must have finished their campaign really fast. Gosh, I barely even remember setting that up. Hebrew Wikipedia, Dutch Wikipedia, Polish Wikipedia, Portuguese, Russian, TestWiki. So if you're a developer and you're developing against TestWiki, we have a model for that. Turkish Wikipedia, and Wikidata. Who here did not hear their favorite wiki listed when I just said those? Awesome. So a big reason why we're all here right now is so that I can talk to you about how maybe we can get your wiki supported, and I can show you how to work with our team so that we can work with you. But before I do that, since I'm giving this overview of ORES, I want to talk a little bit about some of the other capabilities that this system has. They're not quite ready for you to use tomorrow, but we're getting pretty close to actually getting these things loaded in the interface. So the best way that I can show you one of the models that we've been working on that actually Andrew has been using with his students, this model predicts get the most recent version of this article, which I'm going to do by going to the history page and clicking on the top date link. It will put this thing called a revision ID into the URL. That's kind of hard to see. I'm going to zoom in on this in just a moment. You can't, regretfully, no matter how much I zoom in, the address bar is still tiny. But I'm going to take this ID that comes from this version of the article biology, and I'm going to go over to our ORES system and ask it to give me a prediction. I haven't played with our little toy UI in here. I hope it still works. So I'm going to select my wiki. By the way, these short names, these are actually the database names for each of the wikis. Regretfully, we don't have like the natural name like English Wikipedia. Instead, it's EN Wiki. We don't have that mapping in place yet, but these things are pretty easy to look up. You know, if you need a hand looking up your wiki, let me know and I can show you how this works. So I'm going to select EN Wiki because that corresponds to English Wikipedia. And we're going to use the WP10 model, which actually stands for Wikipedia 1.0. The quality scale that English Wikipedians label articles with is called the Wikipedia 1.0 Quality Assessment Scale, and so that's what WP10 comes from. And I'm going to paste this ID number. And so this is that revision ID that corresponded to that most recent version of the article on biology. So if I click Give Me Results, and I scroll down, what we're seeing here is the machine is making a prediction about the likely quality level of this article. And so essentially the scale goes, this is a little bit unordered because they're not alphabetical. And so stub is the lowest quality, then it's start, then C, then B, then GA for good article, and FA for featured article. And so what we can see here is that the score is highest for a featured article, but there's actually some probability there in good article. And so essentially what ORES is saying is, I think that the level of quality in this article is somewhere between good article and featured article. Well, if we go back to the biology page, this little icon in the upper right is telling us that the last time that this article got assessed, they thought it was a good article quality class. And so ORES thinks that this article is probably a little bit higher quality than its most recent assessment. And I don't have a good graph of this handy, but the most recent assessment of this article was sometime in 2013. So sometime in the last 4 years, this article probably gained a little bit higher quality. It may still need some work, but it would probably pass the review for featured article status. And so the fun thing that Andrew has been doing with his students is, as they work on their articles, they will then take the most recent version of their articles that they're building in his classes and give it to the machine learning model, and they can watch as the prediction changes and the prediction for their article quality gets higher and higher. So that's one fun thing that you can do with this article quality model. It turns out that it's very motivating to his students. But one other thing that I want to show you that we've done with this model that I'm really excited about is we can actually measure gaps in coverage and see when those gaps in coverage have been closed. So one of the things that I've been doing is using this model to measure the overall quality of the entirety of English Wikipedia, and then taking interesting cross-sections such as articles about women scientists and seeing how did the quality level of those articles develop independently of the rest of the encyclopedia. And so when the average quality of an article about a woman scientist is lower than the average quality of an article in the rest of the encyclopedia, then that's a coverage gap. When the average quality is higher, then we don't really call that anything, except I just call it a surplus. But it's a happy surplus. It's not a problematic surplus. So what I want to show you next is, using this model, what I've learned about the quality gap and then eventual surplus of women scientists in English Wikipedia. So this graph shows that between the start of Wikipedia and about, somewhere between 2012 and 2013, the gap between the average quality of an article about a woman scientist and the rest of the encyclopedia was widening, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. But then there were some initiatives that started in 2012 and 2013. Specifically, this English Wikipedia user, Kaylana, whose real name is Emily Templewood, started working in this space. She got personally motivated to try and make the coverage of women scientists in Wikipedia better. And so she started writing articles, and then she realized, I need to get a group of people who are working on this together to write articles. And so she worked with a few other Wikipedians to start Wiki Project Women Scientists. And then she applied for grants with the Wikimedia Foundation to run editathons and workshops to train people how to edit Wikipedia and get them started writing articles about women scientists. And I think the graph basically speaks for itself about what happened next. Within a year, the coverage gap was completely closed. And within the next couple of years, we now have an amazingly high surplus and quality of articles about women scientists. Of course, we still don't have an article about all women scientists, but the rate at which the content is growing in English Wikipedia about women scientists is vastly outpacing the rate at which content about other things are growing. And I think that this is a really good example of how, like a measurement strategy, something that we developed in ORES, this prediction model, can help people who are working on these external initiatives, who are looking at coverage gaps and trying to close them, to argue that the money's worth it. We should spend the resources running these editathons. We should be running these workshops and that sort of stuff. Right now, we only have this article quality model for English Wikipedia, Russian Wikipedia, and French Wikipedia. And so I would really love to get this article quality model, or an article quality model that's like this, running in a lot of these other wikis, so we can also look at coverage gaps there and show how initiatives that people have been engaging in have been closing those gaps and making things better. So there's a bunch of other models that are inside of ORES. I don't want to go through all of them. These are the two most prominent ones that we're using right now that people are taking advantage of, and so I wanted to highlight these. And I figured that we could use the rest of the time to talk about, if you don't have ORES support for your wiki, or maybe you would like to use ORES and you had no idea that this thing existed before, how you would do that. So before I move on, I should ask, are there any questions about what I've shown you so far? Maybe, what the heck is that y-axis again, or...
So just to be clear, this is just showing you now, after Kailana's project, the average quality of an article about women scientists is much higher than your average scientist. Is that right? Or...
the average quality for the entire encyclopedia. And so a fun thing that I've been looking at too is there's been some initiatives around the arts in Wikipedia, and so we're just like they're just barely at an inflection point, and they weren't very far behind the rest of the encyclopedia, but you can see really clearly that these outreach efforts have worked. And so this is a comparison of women scientists to any article in the rest of the encyclopedia. We haven't done the cross section of all scientists. I think that would be a really interesting thing to look at too. You know, I wonder if there's now a gap in coverage around male scientists. That seems like an easy problem to solve if we find that. Any other questions?
In this model, can we compare like the two groups of articles, like for example, the woman scientists and man scientists?
Yeah,
and
so
put it into the graph.
Yeah, so we definitely can. One of the things that I've been working on right now, actually, there's an open Fabricator task for this. Is regretfully, this data set is pretty big, and it's hard to do analysis of. It's 650 million rows, I think. And so what we're trying to do is get this loaded into a querying system called Query, which is it's a public querying system where you can write queries against the database behind Wikipedia, and so you can say, for example, select count of star from revision where rev user text is equal to my username epoch fail. I need revision user index. And so that might take just a moment to run. And so anyway, oh no, it doesn't. So I have saved 4,623 edits to English Wikipedia. And for what it's worth, I'm much more active on Meta. I write research articles and that sort of stuff on Meta, not so much on English Wikipedia. But the point is that you can run queries directly against the database. What I've been doing is you can also write a query that says, get me all the pages that are within this wiki project. And so what I'm working with the database administrators towards is getting a table of all of the ORES predictions next to the tables that are users and edits and wiki projects and pages, so that you can say, okay, give me all of the scores for wiki project women scientists, give me all the scores for wiki projects scientist, and list them out together, and then you can just download the data set and put it into your favorite graphing software. I'm sure that if we wait a couple years, the analytics team is going to have a wonderful measurement interface for this, but for right now, you'd have to download the data set and play around with it in your own graphing library, like Excel spreadsheet, which would work just fine.
I want to add this, the data set that you're working on is a historical data set. If you want to measure the difference and the gaps in the
that's a good
time.
point. Yeah.
But actually for right now, the quality of each article for now, there's a data set inside the query and you can use it, but I need to find the documentation for that and I can share it with you. But
Okay, it's really great. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and I completely forgot about that. Yeah, so good. I'm glad that you brought that up. And I do think it's valuable to look at the trend, but I mean, otherwise, if we only had this last bar, of this measurement, that would still be very interesting to know that, wow, actually we have a huge surplus of quality around women scientists. Any other questions?
Can you say a bit more about how the models are trained?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me go to our documentation, because I have a nice summary there, and so I suppose I should be pasting some of these links into the Etherpad. Let's see. Oh, we got the blog in there. Let me just drop that, and I'll let that be formatted by people who are working on the Etherpad. So if you go to our main documentation page, it gives you just a brief overview of like how these models come together, and we can get more into depth later, because that's very interesting to me, as you might imagine. But essentially, what we do for the article quality model is we're using this scale. This is the Wikipedia 1.0 assessment scale with numbers for each article that's classified in each of these assessment classes, and so the quality classes are on the left, and the importance classes are on the top. By the way, we're working on an importance model. We're not quite there yet. And so the way that you find out what class an article was assessed in is you go to the talk page associated with that article. So I'll hop back over to biology and go to this talk page, and where is it? Yeah, there we go. So Wiki Project Biology has this template on the article where they assess it as a good article class. When we train our models, we look through the history of the talk pages. We find out when the article was first assessed with a particular class, and then we include the text of the article with that as our label and build a machine classifier. So we're essentially showing the learning algorithm that, hey, a Wikipedian looked at this text and they said that it was a good article. So remember that. And and of course we come back later with a withheld set, a test set, and ask the model, like, how good are you predicting these things that we didn't show you in the past? And that's roughly they call it supervised machine learning, is our process for getting this together. For the models that let you find vandalism and other types of damaging edits, regretfully we don't have such clean data from this. We can train a model on edits that were reverted in the past, removed from the article by another editor, but there are lots of reasons why you might remove content from an article, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it was damaging. It certainly doesn't mean that it's vandalism, which is intentionally causing damage. And so what we have people do is use an interface that we've built up called Wiki Labels that allows you to get a random sample of edits. Here, I'm just gonna grab one of the work sets that I was demonstrating with earlier today. Uh-oh. I just did a deployment. Are we going to have a demo effect? Good. So what this is showing you is that essentially I've gone to the system and I've said, hey, give me a work set to work from, and it randomly drew 50 edits, which are represented by these rectangles at the top. And you can see this form is asking me, is this edit damaging? Does it, here, oops. There we go. Would you revert this edit? And was it saved in good faith? Does it appear as though the edit was trying to contribute productively to the article? And so let's look at this edit here. So it looks like, oh, whoops, I already labeled this edit. Let's go on to the next one. Let's see. Snow, ice, cream, milk, and water, popular in Korea, Taiwan, and Indonesia. That seems like a good edit to me. And so I would say that no, this is not damaging, and yes, it was saved in good faith, and hit save. And now that's another observation that ORES can train on in order to learn what damaging edits and what good edits look like. Okay, and this is a great segue into what we need in order to get these kind of prediction models deployed on wikis where we don't have them already. One thing before I get into discussing this, because it's one thing to hear me say this in front of you, it's another thing to remember all of the details of the things that I'm going to tell you. So I want to quickly go to the page that describes how you get support in ORES. And I see that somebody's in the middle of setting us up for translation, so there's a lot of garbage in our documentation page right now. Is Benoit in here? No, I don't see him. So let's see. Yeah, here we go. Instructions for requesting support. And here, let me make this a lot bigger. So there's a lot of different types of support that you can get. I just want to wave my hand at the headers that we have on this page. So basic language support, we're going to ask you to curse at us in your language, but preferably in a text file so that we can then give that to ORES, and ORES can use it to catch the curse words. And curses, racial slurs, informal speech like ha 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 and lol and YOLO and that sort of stuff. And by the way, the word that people use to vandalize in every single wiki the most is YOLO, which if you're not into that weird cultural thing, it stands for you only live once, and apparently vandals only live once. And so YOLO is one of the things that shows up in our language files all the time. So for advanced edit quality support, that's where we need you to help us by labeling edits as damaging in good faith using that interface. And so I'm just gonna, oh cool, Benoit put the buttons in here. This page will describe a little bit about like why we need this data and what we're going to be able to do once you help us get it. If you click on this button to request a labeling campaign, it will preload a fabricator task with some of the details that we need. And so I'll make this a little bit bigger. So what was one of the wikis that I asked about that I didn't list out ahead of time that needs support? French Wikipedia. And so we already have it's not quite finished yet. We're very close to French Wikipedia, and so that's a wonderful example. We'll probably have that deployed next week, but maybe the other one.
Monday, because
Monday. Well, that's next week. What was the other wiki? I forgot who else raised their hand.
We are at 21 person now. So.
Oh, really? So you already have a edit quality campaign. So okay, so maybe I'm not going to file a task right now and demonstrate this. But generally, what we would do is let's say that. Gosh, it's hard to think of a wiki that we haven't even started supporting. Oh, I don't think that we have a labeling campaign for English Wiktionary. We have one for English Wikipedia, but not English Wiktionary. And finding vandalism in Wiktionary is different than finding vandalism in Wikipedia. So how about I add that? English Wiktionary. And so all you would need to do then is just fill in the wiki that you would like us to look at, and hit create new task, and the rest of these checkboxes are things for us to do. There's actually one of these that we'll ask you to do, assuming that you speak the local language of the wiki. We'll ask you to translate a few things for us so that when we deploy this labeling campaign, the people who are showing up to label things as damaging and good faith can know what the heck that we're asking them to do. But otherwise, most of it is work for us that we'll do in collaboration with you. Okay. And so let me hop back to this page and make sure that it gets into the Etherpad. So this is the ORES Get Support page. Oh, it's already there. Wonderful. So that was an example for setting up the edit quality support. That was those filters that show up on the recent changes page and help you to catch vandalism and other types of damage. For the article quality support, which we are using to measure content coverage gaps or to motivate students in the classroom setting, we have another request button for that. And so if you click this button, this one's going to be full of questions. And so we'd say, what are we building an article quality model for? And so let's just say French Wikipedia, because we don't have that yet. Oh wait, no, actually we do. Darn it, we do have one for French Wikipedia.
German?
German? Oh yeah, we don't have one for German. Great. The Germans don't like to work with us that much. Wikipedia. Okay, and so then our first questions is how do Wikipedians in this wiki label articles by their quality level? You know, is there a way in which they do that? And so this would be a question for the person filing this task for us. What levels are there, and what process do people follow to label these articles for quality? You know, we ask about how info boxes work because, and I'm really coming from like an English Wikipedia background, and so I'm not sure if things are done the same way on your wiki. And so if they are, you know, are they used like they are on English Wikipedia? Then I know how to work with that, and I can help train the model to detect those kind of things. Same thing with citation needed templates and how they work. And so when somebody would file this task, they would answer these questions, and then we would pick it up from there and discuss with you how things come together in your wiki so that we can then start building the models for you. And this is actually a really great example for French Wikipedia. A big reason why we could do anything at all with French Wikipedia is because Guillaume Pommier sat down with us and answered these questions. And so, you know, we have a huge page discussing like what templates are used and when they're used, and links to pages on French Wikipedia that describe the quality levels and why they're important and why they're different and that sort of stuff. And that's the kind of material that lets us stand one of these things up so that we can use it. Okay, so one more thing. So this is a brand new modeling strategy. It's one of the models that I didn't talk about that much because it's hard to show you right now. But another big problem, it's not just catching vandalism in Wikipedia that we have to worry about. We also have to worry about problematic new article creations. And so there's different levels of problematic. There's severely problematic that need to be dealt with immediately. And I generally, or at least the new page patrollers on English Wikipedia, generally put spam, vandalism, and personal attack pages, pages that are meant to you know, hurt somebody else's feelings or defame them or something like that. That these things we can catch with a machine learning model really well. We can see spam, vandalism, and aggressive language in the page, and so we can build a prediction model for this. And so I call this draft quality. There's other characteristics that are much more nuanced about the quality level of an article, such as, is it notable? Is it even something that should be covered in an encyclopedia? That's much harder to have a machine do, but at the very least we can have a machine deal with the stuff that needs to be immediately removed from the wiki. And so it's a similar story. If you click on this link, it will start a fabricator task that has a set of questions. How do people, or what tools do people use to patrol new page creations in your wiki, or do they use any at all? Is there a common way that they record their deletion reasons when they delete pages to explain why they were deleted? Were they, you know, so that we can find out if they're deleted for these immediate and severe reasons? And so again, if you were working with us to set up a draft quality model for your wiki, if you can answer these questions, we'll be, you know, one step towards getting that built for you so that you can use it. One more thing that I should note before I move on is that gosh, it's hard to explain what my title and role is because this project started out as a volunteer project. Like, I'm a research scientist. I was not hired by the Wikimedia Foundation to build and engineer things. I just started working with Amir to engineer this ORES system because I thought it was important and I thought that we should have it. But starting this next fiscal year, I will be the engineering manager for a team in technology called Scoring Platform, where ORES is our primary product. It's the primary thing that we're working on, and so we're going to have a lot more resources to push this forward. We won't be the people who are building the user interfaces that people use to catch vandalism or assess article quality or to measure the content coverage gaps in wiki projects. We'll be the ones who are building the models, making sure that they are very accurate as we can make them, and making sure that the service that provides these predictions stays online. And so we really need you and product managers at the Wikimedia Foundation, Wikimedia Deutschland, to adopt the ORES predictions and incorporate them into the tools that you're building. And so right now we actually have on the scale of, I think it's 20 tools that use ORES already. And a lot of these are gadgets and bots and, let's see, API usage. Where is it? Support table. I swear
I think it's in reverse scoring.
That's one.
Oh. No. Wikimedia scoring. There it is. Did I put it in here? No?
Oh, it was the last entry in the other page.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
It was API usage, which is not what I was looking for. Oh, that's okay. I'll just use our old page. Back when we were a research project. There we go. There we go. Okay, let me make this much bigger. Oh, and by the way, like most of our team has been made up of volunteers this entire time, and so the current team is me and 2 volunteers, Amir and Adam White, who's not here right now. But we've had a lot of people who've been volunteering on the team in the past, and you know, like life gets in the way, and they picked up new projects, but they've contributed a lot, and so they're listed out on our pages as well. Just thought I'd shout out to them while we're scrolling past. So there's a Fast Buttons gadget on Portuguese Wikipedia that pulls in ORES predictions. The Fast Buttons gadget allows people to revert edits and send warning messages in just one click. There's this nice little gadget called Scored Revisions. If we don't have full support for your wiki through that cool filter interface that I was showing you, we probably have partial support, and this is a great way to get access to it. So you can still actually see edits in the recent changes highlighted for review. You just can't filter them and remove the edits that don't need your review, and so you have to do a bunch more scrolling, but this gadget will still allow you to take advantage of that. Raun, which is a tool on Tool Labs that loads up changes to wikis in real time. Let's see if we can get a few edits to fly by in Raun. There we go. And so these little flame markers are telling you that this edit is likely to be damaging, and you should probably take a look at it. And by the way, this is from Portuguese Wikipedia, and this works because we have support for Portuguese Wikipedia. Let's see. Real-time recent changes. Does anybody here use real-time recent changes? Yeah, I think it's really an amazing tool. Regretfully, Crinkle isn't in the room because he deserves a shout out for it. It's another tool for tracking changes as they happen, removing vandalism, tracking new pages, that sort of stuff. So getting into another type of tool, Reports Bot that supports Wiki Project X will use our article quality predictions and report to Wiki projects which pages they should consider working on next. The Wiki Education Foundation is using our article quality predictions to help student productivity. One of the things that they find really valuable is they will run the article quality model on a student's article while they're developing it, and once it hits a C class or better, they'll suggest like, I think that your draft is ready, why don't you move it to the main article space? And by using that strategy, they're having much more success with their articles not getting deleted. The ORES model knows what good citation patterns look like, and so it also helps the students make sure that they have their citations up to snuff before they move things into the main namespace. SuggestBot, which if you don't know about SuggestBot, you must know about SuggestBot. SuggestBot recommends articles for you to edit based on your past edits. So if you edit a lot around, say botany, then it will recommend articles that are related to flowers for you to edit, or maybe articles that are related to plant biology for you to edit. It figures that out by looking at people who edit the articles that you edit also edit these other articles, so you're likely to be interested in those as well. You might be familiar with this. We generally refer to it as a recommender system. Netflix does it. The recommender systems are kind of everywhere now. SuggestBot is a really good recommender system for Wikipedia. And I can't remember which wikis it runs on, but it's not just English Wikipedia. I just happen to be linking to the English Wikipedia page for SuggestBot here. So yeah, if you do want to go check that out, I highly recommend that you go check out this page and find out if it's supported in your wiki. The person who maintains this bot is a research fellow at the Wikimedia Foundation, so if your wiki isn't supported, I can help you get in contact with him, and I'm pretty sure he'd love to help get SuggestBot running on your wiki too. Crosswatch, which actually I don't use anymore because now we have cross-wiki notifications, but back before we had notifications that would come from one wiki to another, this tool would allow you to track things that were happening on lots of wikis. And it was very easy for the developers of Crosswatch to pull in the ORES prediction models. The ORES extension, which is really what I was just showing you a moment ago, the filters on the recent changes page, that's sort of the next step in the ORES extension. So that's just one example of a tool. Huggle, does anybody here use Huggle? Huggle is another one of these vandalism fighting tools, and it uses ORES predictions to improve upon its quality prediction strategy. Oh, Dataflowbot. Dataflowbot is a really good example. So Dataflowbot will find articles that get viewed a lot but are low quality using our article quality prediction model, and makes lists of those to help people direct their work to where it's going to have the most impact, where there's a lot of people looking at something that really should be higher quality. We already talked about a lot of what the Wiki Education Foundation uses this for. It's just important that you know that they have lots of tools that use this stuff. And I've never actually used Copy Patrol, so it's kind of hard to describe that one. So who here develops tools for editors of the wikis? You know, gadgets, bots, that sort of stuff. So I'd really love to talk to any and all of you about how ORES might be able to help out with the tools that you have. And if maybe there's a prediction that you would find handy that we haven't even started looking at yet, I would love to get that on our backlog so that we can start thinking about how that might work. The whole system is designed so that it's easy for you to use. You can access it through api.php. You can access it directly through our ORES service interface. We produce data dumps if you prefer to process things offline and then have like a bot make a large post or something like that. And so we're always on the lookout for supporting tool developers. So yeah, please come talk to me afterwards. And with that, that's all I had planned to give you an overview of today. Are there any more questions? And before anybody takes off, after we're done with questions, I'd love to sit down with anybody who wants to look at a tool, wants to see what it's going to take to get your wiki supported, wants to talk about a new prediction, and so you know, don't walk away. I want to sit down and work with you right afterwards, if that's okay.
Is there any chance that this could be used to predict, say, article readership? I mean, how many times an article would be viewed in a certain period based on past data or stuff like that?
So we can certainly build like a time series model that would say, like, based on the past view rate, like what view rate do we expect in the future. But it sounds like you're thinking of like how often would an article be viewed before it's even created in the first place.
No, I'm more likely thinking about, say, we have three biographies of people born in the same day. Which one is more likely to be viewed this year?
Yeah, I see.
Which one should we invest in?
I see. So this would be like predicting a view spike. You know, like which articles are, yeah, okay, so.
One thing that there's a prophecy library that was built based on by Facebook, and to do some regression and see if something changed after a while. And they are trying to use it in the Wikimedia environment, and it has been good so far. But you need to contact analytics about that.
Okay.
All right. Oh, what's your username?
Strain.
Oh yeah. There we go. Cool. Yeah, can't guarantee that we'll be able to figure that one out, but at the very least we can start collecting resources and making progress, and we'll see where it goes.
I have two feature requests. Yesterday we had a session about flag revisions extension, and one of the conclusion was that ORES should be integrated into the flag revision, because, for example, on the Hungarian Wikipedia, we would like to have a feature which helps to the reviewers to decide about the recent change, that is it good or bad faith or damaging or not. And even it could be automatically decided that before somebody review an article, should we show it the latest version of the article, or we should wait until somebody check it. Something like that. So for this, it should be integrated, because Hungarian Wikipedia has flag revision and it's running, and we in near future we would like to use ORES, and if they could cooperate somehow, it would be more useful than if they are separate.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense too. I can't remember if I'm getting the name of the proposal right. I think it was titled Pending Changes, and somebody's been working on this, and it's been a couple months since I've had a look at it though. Do you know about this proposal, like specifically to use ORES with flagged revisions?
No.
Okay, so I know that there's a few patch sets in Garrett that I was trying to help get reviews for. Yeah, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. But yeah, there's no serious technical limitation that stands in between this. The ORES data already gets loaded into a table that's in the MediaWiki database for every edit that's in recent changes, which are all the edits that could be flagged for review as well. And so comparing the score and deciding whether something should be flagged long term or should be unflagged seems like something that we can totally do. And yeah, like I said, I know that there was at least a patch set for doing this. I don't know how close it is to good, but yeah, there's already a little bit of work in that space. So maybe we can dig around a little bit later and I can find what I was remembering and make sure that you're involved in that ongoing work. That would be cool.
Okay, and the second is we had a nice tool in the past that we was able to color the text, the content of an article based on how trustable it or what is the expected quality of a sentence of a part of an article. And this tool doesn't work anymore, but ORES could be used for this prediction. So because now it works only for recent changes or so separate revisions. But from this, it's one more step. It could generate an evaluation for the text of the article.
Yeah. So this tool that I'm pretty sure this tool that you're talking about was called Wiki Trust or something like that. Yeah. And so a big reason why Wiki Trust doesn't run anymore, here, just so that other people can see what it is that you're talking about. So this is what it did. It would highlight chunks of content in the article, and essentially what it was showing is that a chunk of content that got highlighted was added recently by somebody who doesn't have a history of adding content to Wikipedia and having it stick. And so that describes a vandal pretty well. Vandals tend to add content and then have their edits reverted. And so, yeah, we build this trustworthiness score. So a big problem with Wiki Trust, and a big reason why it went offline and we haven't replaced it, is it's extremely computationally intensive to generate the data that's necessary in order to highlight sentences on pages. But there are a few things that we can do with ORES that are different, but serve a very similar purpose. So one of the things that I've been working on recently is building a grammar model that can score a sentence as reading as though it's kind of spammy, and it turns out that it works pretty well. That people who use like glowing language to refer to a company or something like that, they're kind of obvious in their linguistic structure, and so that's just one of the things that we might be able to highlight using ORES. And so you could run ORES on an article and it would highlight the sentences that have grammatical issues, or highlight the sentences that are kind of promotional. And help people review that sort of stuff. So anyway, I think that that's something that we can do. But the ORES infrastructure right now is super different from Wiki Trust, and we would have to do a lot more and different stuff in order to be able to replicate Wiki Trust functionality. And for what it's worth, I'm totally working on that. I'm just skeptical that we'll be able to get it online soon and be able to use it like people were able to use Wiki Trust.
Yeah, I was running the Wiki Trust for the Finnish Wikipedia for a couple of years, and it was bad for checking if the edit was good or bad, but it was amazing for the annotating the content. You could check when the text was added and stuff like that, or you could put there that which user groups are edited. Which point of parts of articles and stuff like that.
There's another use case that I really like to support with this, which is like sometimes we find somebody who's been adding hoaxes for a long period of time, but it took us a year to find them. And then what we really want to do is find out where is some content that they added still existing in the articles, and that's a very similar problem to this. And so that's something that I'd really like to support too. We've been talking about it for years, and I have offline analysis that does this, but we have no online systems that do that right now. Yeah.
I have a question.
After and then you.
Okay, so let's say I'm a really bad guy. We are using supervised learning. What if I'm feeding it with abusive content? So I made lots of yellows on Wiki, then I click yes, good content. Do we have any protection for that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Pulling data out of our training set is pretty easy to do, and every label that somebody gives us in order to train a model is associated with your user account. And so if we find out that say for example we train the prediction model and then we run it back over our training set, and there's a set of edits that are just totally wrong, and then we can see like, wow, this user was probably submitting bogus data. Maybe we should take everything that they've labeled and go label it again. We haven't had to do that yet because this hasn't been that popular. But we're sort of following that wiki curation pattern where it's okay if something bad happens because we can go back and do it again. But yeah, so we don't have great tools in place though to support this. We like it's a simple matter of coding, which means that it would take hours, but we can address this. We definitely see it in the fitness of the models too, because like the model fitness would suddenly go very like straight down, and we would know that we need to look into something. There's one other indicator that we would get that we use quite a bit, which is, I want to show this page on Wikidata, ORES. We work with local wikis to set up pages to report mistakes that ORES makes, and so this is an example of a page that's maintained by Wikidata editors, and so each one of these lines is flagging an edit where ORES predicted that it was vandalism and it's not. And it's got a little description after it saying like why this isn't vandalism and what sort of characteristics are happening in the edit. And we'll then work on the model and show improvements against those bad predictions. And so if we ever saw that people were telling us like, hey, in this certain case, when vandals are adding YOLO, it's not getting flagged as vandalism, what the heck is going on? Like we hear things that sound just like that. So are there any Italians in the room? Italian speakers? Okay, well then I get away with getting some minor details in this wrong. So one of the bits of signal that we use in predicting vandalism are these informal words that I was discussing earlier. So in English, ha, H-A, is laughing, and so that's informal. Ha 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 is something that you might put it on a talk page, but you would never put it in an article. And so ORES picks that up as some of its signal to predict vandalism. But in Italian, which is also pronounced H-A, is not laughing. It's the word for have. And the Italian Wikipedians who are using ORES told us that, I don't know what's going on, but there's a lot of times where ORES says that something's vandalism, and it's edits where somebody's adding to a page. And so it didn't take us very long to look into that and figure out what the problem was. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is I've been amazed at how people who are using this system can figure out nuanced ways in which it's stupid, and then tell us about it, and then we can go make fixes to it. And that's been working really well for us. In fact, like in the next year, we're going to be building tools that make it even easier to report these kind of issues to us, so that we can empower our users to make sure that the models aren't causing more problems than they're solving.
Just a very quick question. So you use this filter with ha and ha 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 universal for every language, right?
Yeah.
It's best for Hungarian will be a first.
That's interesting. Yeah, we should probably look into that for Hungarian too. Yes. Yeah, our Hungarian support is just. Yeah.
Meaningful word.
Yeah, it's good to know, and like we've changed a few other things too. We have some information theoretic characteristics of the way that we track bad words and informal words that might mitigate the problem, but I still suspect that it's going to be a problem. And so, actually, why don't I I'm just going to file that quick because Fabricator is my brain these days. Don't use as an informal in Hungarian. And I'll look into that. Cool, thanks.
Okay, I'm curious about the statistics, so I would ask you if there are any simple statistics of a tool, like how many percent of edit is marked as vandalism, and the second part is how many of them which are marked as a vandalism are reverted. Like these are only two examples, but yeah, the question is about the statistics.
So we don't follow people using the model because like a lot of the times like maybe the edit wasn't reviewed if it wasn't reverted, or maybe it was reverted but not because it was vandalism. It was reverted because it was You know, there are a lot of edits that look a lot like a revert, but they weren't intended to remove something problematic, and so I don't like taking measurements with that. But we do have. Are you setting up? We do have fitness statistics, and regretfully, what I was just going to show you is that our API reports, like, if you set your this is damaging threshold at this level, and you're going to highlight edits at this level, you should expect to get this false positive rate and this true positive rate, and so you can know what sort of behavior you would expect from the model by just looking at the API and the statistics that we report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, thank you very much.